Okay, we're live, everybody. Welcome. Nick, you want to tell us who we have today?
Yeah, so welcome everyone. We've got Patrick Tullius, former 10 summer bookman. He's got 15 years of total stories that he can dive into with us today. He's there in Clint, Texas, just outside of El Paso. He's a terrific father, a legendary bookman, and has just a lot of wisdom to share. So we're glad to have you on, Pat. We like to start this episode out just by asking you how this journey started. You can just briefly touch on any accolades that you care to share about yourself, things that you're proud of. It's okay to brag. And yeah, let's just talk about how this whole journey started for you. Go ahead and start wherever.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll start a year before I sold books, where my book career started. I was over in New Mexico State, and I was avoiding this crazy looking redhead named Matt Ross, who had been trying to get a hold of me for like half a semester, just kind of like ducking and diving and like evading the weirdo. And my buddy who sold books with me, my student manager, tricked me into going to an information session, and it was with Chris Samuels. Well, he went on to sell books. He was top 30 or 40 in the company that year. And that was the #1 team in the world from New Mexico State that I avoided going out with. But I went to an info session and signed up, and then I ended up getting surgery on my shoulder, April 28th, right before the summer, May 10th. And I was telling Chris Samuels that, hey, I don't know that I can go sell books if I'm supposed to be in therapy for 8 weeks of an 11-week summer. I don't know what your thoughts are. Should I go try to sell books one-handed, one-armed, as a first year, as I'm trying to learn this business? He's like, well, I don't know. What do you think about next year? I'm like, well, it seems like it'd be a good fit for next year too. So I think I could probably go be top in the company or something like that if I go out the following year versus a shortened summer. He's like, well, we should do that then. He said, can I count on you to do that? And gave me the Chris Samuels smile. I said, sure. I said, you're not going to be quitting in a year or something like that, are you? He said, no, I'll be here. I said, all right, well, then I'll go out next year. That's how I got recruited to sell books. I signed up in the info session. I shook hands with Chris Samuels. He kind of talked to me in a room of 30 and then made me come sit from the back to the front and closed me in the interview. Wow. So Chris Samuels is my book father. Rowdy Green is my student manager. He was a DSM and an 11-year bookman. And then I got bounced around in my career from the Matt Ross, Lester Crafton, Kevin Johnson, Chris Samuels. So I had all different sales managers during my career. And wow. I was sort of a stubborn bookman. I spent 7 years in college living in a hot spring in a hotel, and I worked full time, and I paid my way through school. And the book was like an excuse to travel the world and hang out with buddies.
Heck yeah, right.
So it was a really great 10-year run for me, and then that's how it started. That's how it all started. I went out and sold books the following year. But I got recruited that day. That's how it started.
Dang. Did you end up following through? Were you #1 the next year, or how'd you do?
No, there's this random redneck from Tennessee, Dustin Hillis. He ended up beating me that year.
Heard of him.
He was #1. He was #1. I was number 101. I didn't even make top 100. So I was pretty weak.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, man, 101 is pretty good, especially back then. A lot more people sold books per summer. It felt like back then it was like 8,000.
I think it was like 2,500 first years that year, when my first summer was in 2001. And it was crazy, man, because I was pumped and I was ready to go. And then first day on the book field, I followed, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna kill it. And then the next day I totaled my truck at 9 a.m. middle of my first school period. I got hit by a semi and became a walker for the rest of the summer. Good times.
Gosh.
Where was that?
That was in Northwest Michigan. So it was cold and rainy and snowing. It snowed on me that day too.
Wow.
The day after I totaled my truck.
Wow.
As a walker.
Yeah, I was a dumb first year like most of us. I was wearing swimming trunks, like flower colored green swimming trunks. I used to be in really good shape, so I was wearing like a wife beater. I was, I was at the gun show showing off in Northwest Michigan, and I decided to wear flip flops that day because I'm from West Texas and it's always 90 degrees. My buddy's like, man, I know this perfect little town for you. It's called Mesick, Michigan. If you know anything about Mesick, Michigan, it's like 200 people. It's the big trailer park. And it's way up in Northwest Michigan.
Gosh.
That's funny.
So I'm out there and I don't have a bike, but my buddy said, you should get a bike, bro. It's pretty far and few between after this town. He didn't say trailer park, but that's what it was.
No.
Well, I got me a 10-year-old bike that day, a 10-year-old's bike. I bought it for $10, my last $10. And that's the way my summer unofficially started.
With the wife.
I used to tell the story in the, the climb the mountain talk at Southwestern during sales school, like the fourth day or whatever it is.
Oh yeah.
I used to tell the Lee McCroskey styled version of the mud story.
Yeah.
Except it was my own version. And I guess I could tell that story if you guys want to hear it.
Let's hear it. Yeah.
Well, as I stated, I was this 6'1" idiot from West Texas and Northwest Michigan that summer, and I was ill-equipped and ill-dressed to sell books in the country of Northwest Michigan as a walker. But I did. I went out to the trailer park and I collected a few week deposits in the town of Mesick, and I think I had 4 or 5 sales with total collected like $50. And I get through this trailer park in the first goal period and I see like this looming storm, this impending doom of my first day on the field, actually. And this is day 3 of summer number 1. About 11 o'clock, this thing rolls in and the clouds turn super dark, and they're the giant cumulonimbus, the really tall lake effect ones that you get in Michigan. And it started to rain, but it was kind of cold, and then the rain turned to sleet, and then the sleet turned to snow. And it got to like 30 something degrees, and I'm biking around in this town of Mesick that I come to love hate. And they have this big giant bridge, like a lumber town, so they're like cutting down trees and stuff. They have this giant bridge on the one main drag that leads in town, and I get through the trailer park of town of Mesick, and then I try to get to the other side of the road. And I picked up this little 10-year-old's bike with my last $10. I went down this muddy road to get there, and I had to like sit there and demo the guy in my whitey tighties while he dried off my clothes. It was him and his 5-year-old. They didn't buy, but they dried my clothes and gave me a trash bag to wear as a raincoat.
Yeah.
And they're like, good luck, dude. And they're laughing about the way I bought that 10-year-old kid's bike for $10. And I'm like, where's the next house? He's like, oh, it's probably about 1.5 miles that way. I'm like, okay. So I'm like on my bike, crossing this bridge to get to the good side of town where there's 6 houses. And this giant semi like comes by and splashes some water on me, and I try to avoid it. Oof. And I'm on this narrow path with a railing, and my handlebar catches the railing. I make it all the way across until the very end and catch the railing and flip over the railing into the muddy bank that goes into like this ravine. The bike hits me, tumbles down the hill like another 20-30 feet. I'm like, hell with this. I'm not going to get that bike and get even more muddy. I'm already covered in mud and water in my trash bag and my flip flops and my wife beater.
Yeah.
30-degree weather. And I was like, all right. They said it was going to be hard. They said that, I would need this little love note to read to myself. I didn't think it'd be day 1. I'm not quitting. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find a way. Well, I left the bike where it lay. I sloshed up that mud bank, and then I went and did like 10 more demos that day, and I sucked. And I sat in a coffee shop and got feeling back in my hands and feet. Picked up an old hat off the refrigerator at the one diner in town, and that's when I knew that I was going to make it summer number one, no matter what.
Wow.
Dang, man.
Wow.
What drove, like, it,
Yeah.
did you, was that like, how do you always been that way in your life, where you were like, no matter what, I'm gonna stick this through, or like what, or was this something new for you? Like, was this a moment of growth where you're like, no, this is the moment where I changed? Like, what was that like for you?
Well, it was absolutely a defining moment in my life, but I've been fortunate enough to have many of those in my 10-year direct sales, my 20-year direct sales career. It's just that fork in the road. I guess I've always tried to be that way, where I just do what I say and say what I do.
Mm.
But that one was a gut check for sure, and it helped me realize that no matter what, I might lose my truck, break my leg, I'm going to finish this summer.
Yeah.
And I knew I may not be number one, but I would be number something.
You make it to the finish.
And it was a glorious first summer. I'll never forget it.
Absolutely.
Freezing in Michigan.
Yeah.
Well, luckily it only snowed a couple more times that year.
Yeah.
And by June it was snowing.
My fourth summer, and I think my one other summer, I can't remember which one, but my fourth summer for sure was the most snow I ever saw. And it blew people's minds that it was snowing, because, when you describe this, yeah, I was in Vermont. I was in up way north in Vermont. And
It
like
snowed in my territory in Vermont that same summer.
yeah, early May, and just you wake up and you don't even have a choice. You have to take a cold shower, because the HQ that we had, they were just like, sorry, it's cold water. We're like, no, it's perfect. And it was freezing, and you go outside and there's like snow. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, snow in the book field, So it's tough, man. You were out there for up north there. Dang, good for you.
It was good cold showers for us too. Yeah. And we lived in a basement. Pretty epic.
Oh, basements would be good for HQ. That's crazy, man. So I know you said you had like a ton of stories as far as like, your career. We can dive into some of those a little bit. Tell me, or I guess if you would like to share, maybe some of them chronologically. Save the showstopper one for the end, but like if you, or if are they chronological, or are these more like by life lesson?
I like to think about things in life lessons. For me,
Okay.
I'm pretty good at recalling dates because of my direct sales career.
Yeah.
So I can chronologically break down my life pretty well, as I remember, and I tie my memories to little things that I can hang on to mentally.
That's
But
awesome.
I think life lessons is probably the way to go. And gosh, I'm probably like one of the best stories for Southwestern in their illustrious 160-year careers of really a guy with no talent that just allowed the system to work. Except I didn't do that very well the first 2 years of my Southwestern career.
Yeah.
I like fought the system and tried to create my own and do my own thing. And then I finally bought in my third summer, and I realized that, whoa, this thing works if you just use the system. So I made a living and made a life on, I come from a great family. I'm really blessed for that, but I made a life on hanging on to the life lessons in Southwestern, like attitude and effort, like best attitude, best effort, only two things you can control. This too shall pass. Don't get too high, don't get too low. I'm like a walking motivational excerpt guy. I've got those one-liners for days. I attribute them to the brainwashing that I've put myself through with Southwestern. To this day, Nick will attest to, you still got those quotes like marked up through the house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Like from OG, or just overall?
I've got like 10 OGs, and I distribute those widely, but like the credit belongs to the man in the ring. I got that one. God has given me this day to use. I mean, those are two of the favorite quotes that I go to like daily. I've still got my win the day. I still got my gold cards. I've literally been involved in 20 different businesses since I was with Southwestern in 2001. And it's crazy because I've just taken the principles that we learn running a business, dealing with people, and I've applied those in various different businesses. And they cater to my ADD personality. That's why I have a lot of different things that my hands are in, because I just can't pay attention for too long to one thing. But using those principles, it's ridiculous how it just works in every field you're in. Look, I've been making a joke about this with everybody, but you know, like 2020 is this big year, blah, blah, COVID, lockdown. I get this funny little award here, and it's pretty cool because this is the second time in like 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm the salesperson of the year for this like marketing exec job, my W-2. And Nick will tell you that I don't really do much in that job.
No.
But you know, it's a cool little relationship. I manage a bunch of major accounts for a company, and they found me because of my Southwestern experience.
Whoa. So then, like, yeah, tell us that story. So if the quotes that you were talking about, like the couple of principles that you stick with the most, can you rank those in order, or can you tell us a little bit about those? Like which are like if you had to like narrow it down to like the most important ones, do you have those?
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of ingrained in my psyche for life, whether I'd like that to be the case or not. You know, the biggest thing that I got out of Southwestern, I was this wild and crazy guy. There was just no other way to put it. I was like a guy that worked out 2-3 hours a day. I was jacked with adrenaline and testosterone, and I was just an animal. And then I met Southwestern, and I got humbled a little bit. And every summer, I got closer to God in my experience because I get to see my effects as a person, and my sphere of influence was really bringing people up or down. And it was sort of that way for me my whole life, and I didn't realize it until Southwestern helped me understand, you know, you're leading people one way or another. The main thing is, you know, I got closer to God through this relationship with Southwestern. Every single year, all the tests, all the adversity brought me to the point where I just knew that I'm just a dude from West Texas who works harder than most people, but that's probably the only thing that differentiates me from a lot of people. And I got to give the credit to the great family and the great upbringing I had. And then I think that my commitment to doing what I say and saying what I do was emboldened with my Southwestern experience. You know, do everything you do with integrity. I think that's a huge thing that is probably number two. The way you live your days is the way you live your life. And I learned that in Southwestern. And when it comes down to any kind of business, any kind of sales, any kind of marketing, any kind of that realm, it's simple. See more, sell more, show more, sell more. Outwork the competition, and you'll do better than the competition. Work more, get more. Have a better attitude. Be an attitude master. Have an attitude of gratitude. Be grateful. Be thankful. Be open. Be ready to learn. It's those three things, you know. Be coachable, teachable. Finish what you start. Effort and attitude. It's those things that I've just carried with me my whole life that have made all the difference. I'm like the dad that wakes up in the morning and says, "It's Magnificent Monday" to my 2-year-old. I'm like, "What's the day?" She's like, "It's Terrific Tuesday."
Yeah.
"What's the day?" "It's Wonderful Wednesday." "What's the day?" "Thankful Thursday." "What are you most thankful for?" "It's Fabulous Friday." "It's Sadder Week." "Oh, it's Super Sunday." "It's Fun Day Sunday." I mean, this is what I'm teaching in my house to my 2-year-old. And it's great, man. I mean, I think there's so much to be taken from my Southwestern experience, but I came back not because I ever made any money with Southwestern, because I usually would make a bunch of money and then blow it all, traveling the world and partying and hanging out, gaining in life experiences. But it's the people from Southwestern that have that common ilk that have really been phenomenal for me. And the association with 5 or 10,000 people that are kind of like me is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
Nick will attest that I'm kind of a weirdo, but I have a lot in common with the book people, the book clique, because we're all really motivated and ambitious and adventurous, and those are the 3 grains of commonality that I find to be tremendous. And it's neat because I'm like, oh, I got this buddy that's got a bestseller, and everyone looks at me like I'm a fool or telling a lie, but it's true. And I can say that about, like, 3 or 4 guys in my life from Southwestern.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, one of these buddies that I used to work with, he's got a bestseller out. Another guy wrote this other bestseller. Oh, he started another company, and it's cool to be a 39-year-old dude that never has to look for a job, because I've got a buddy starting a soon to be Fortune 100 business or Fortune 500 business, or just a cool little mom and pop, 1 to 5 man show. And it's always the same conversation. Hey, dude, I'm starting a business. Cool. What kind of business? Blah. Well, can you help me with, I'm doing this. Can you help me with recruiting some guys, or can you help me with training some guys, or can you help me with starting a business? It's always the same game. Starting a business or scaling a business. Same principle, same game.
Yeah.
It's been a ton of fun.
Yeah. So tell us about how you ingrain these principles over time. Let's hear those, stories after that first summer. Like, how did you decide this is where I want to be spending time? When did you realize you were going to be spending your 10th year with Southwestern? Was that always the plan, or did it just kind of happen that way? How did your career go after that first summer?
Well, we were the number 2 team my first summer in the world.
Wow.
We lost out to the Texas squad. I think it was A&M that was number 1 that year, Florida. This was back in the day, like 01, 02. And my career was a little bit unique in that I quit Southwestern 3 times. Not during the summer, because I never quit during the summer when I had a team of people, but between the years, I would say, after my second summer, after Matt Ross humped Jerry Heffel and got fired, I was like, oh, that's lame. You can't hump the president of this company, even if you're the best DSM in the company. Well, I don't really know that I want to work with those kind of people. So I went and sold cars part-time in the summer and lived at the Hot Spring Inn Hotel, what would have been my 3rd summer. And then I realized, those are all crappy people. Maybe I should go back to the book gig that's really hard. So I went back a 3rd summer. And that's when I didn't have Matt Ross as a DSM because he was gone.
Right.
I was part of that little faction that carried the organization till his return, which Lester Crafton and Kevin Johnson and Chris Samuels were integral in. My 3rd summer, I went back and I had my best summer to that point. I think I sold like 5,800 units or something like that. And I was just I was a Sizzler winner, but I was a stubborn nut system user until that 3rd summer. And then after that, I really didn't care as long as I sold 5,000 units. And then I would kind of give away units to my first years so they could make it to Sizzler, because that's the whole reason I thought the book business was cool.
Okay.
Awesome. I always had like 5 or 10 or 20 people from my organization in Sizzler, so it was always cool that way to party with the dirty New Mexicans and the Arizona and the Texans.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. A decade of Sizzlers was awesome. Promise.
Yeah. just
one
Sizzler.
Yeah, a decade of them was awesome. Then I went till I lost a business partner and my grandmother in the same week while I was selling books in my 6th summer, which was my final summer again. I lost them about the 8th week, and I was cranking. I still sold, 5,400 units, but I took a 2-week, like a week and a half to go set things up at the Hot Spring and then have my grandma's funeral. It was kind of crazy because I was in OL that year too, but I lost a business partner and my grandma the same, they were basically 2 weeks. I went back and finished the summer like they would have wanted me to, and then I graduated. I lost my business after that business partner died, the hot spring and hotel. His estate went to his heirs, and I got just the portion that I had worked for percentage ownership on, and it was kind of a bummer because I had pretty much decided I was going to live at the hot spring hotel for a while, and 7 years was good, but it wasn't enough. So I got a real job. I quit school, graduated. I graduated with like 180 or 200 credits or something like that because I was just hanging out in college for a while.
Yeah.
The idea of growing up didn't sound that cool. I graduated, and then I went and took an HR job at a slaughterhouse for Cargill in the Panhandle of Texas. And I did all the hiring and firing and that kind of thing. Learned a little bit there for a couple of years. Then our sales organization had grown to the point where my best bud had become a DSM. He's like, dude, all these guys are your guys and my guys. I need you out here, man. I'm like, dude, I'm making $95,000 a year, and I'm doing less work than I've ever done, man. Why would I go back to doing that? He's like, well, Cody's here, Antoinette's here, Janelle's here, Adam Frost is here. And he basically just listed like 30 of the people that we built together. And I was like, oh, I get it. So he paid for my trip out there, covered my expenses. Yeah, he dropped them hot, like 30 of them. and he talked about their growth and development, their award winning. And I was like, okay, so he pulled me back in, and I made a decision that I was going to come back and try to be a DSM instead of just party and hang out. So I put in another 4 more years at that point. And by the time I got to my 4th year, it was year number 10. I basically pre-decided that if I was going to go back and sell books and leave my career for the book gig, that I would be doing it for real. So I put in 4 good years, and then I made my way out and into insurance and then into real estate. And I've been doing real estate my whole life, but I decided I'd bend my will toward it full time. I opened up Southwestern's real estate shop out in Texas, which was a lot of fun. It was Southwestern. So I got to recruit the broker and a couple of the agents that helped start Texas out. And then I decided I'd focus on my family instead. It was the Southwestern model. You do it, you earn it, you can have a piece of it.
Yep.
And you can be associated with our people.
That's right.
And I've been on my own since then, just kind of like freelance consulting, doing real estate, doing insurance. And then I got my W-2, or I'm a marketing exec for a company, and life's good, man. I'm living a pretty low-key life down here on the farm and in the mountains, just semi-retired and focusing on the babies 1 to 5 years.
Wow.
And then I'll kick up a lot of things again.
They're like sponges at that age.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's great that you can be there for your kid. Like that's a you earned that, right? I mean, you worked your way up and learned your things, and now you get to enjoy that. So that's so cool. It's kind of like Grant Greeter's kind of that way too, where
I love Grant. He's a beast.
Grant's insane. Yeah, we're gonna get him on here soon. But yeah, yeah, he's so cool. Just chill, dude. But the same idea. He worked really hard for a long time and settled down, has a family, awesome house, great wife. Just a cool life, and he gets to enjoy it with them just because he worked really hard early on. So that's cool. Good for you, man. That's awesome.
You talked about those major lessons. One thing that I always talk about still, sacrificing now for what I want later. I get to do the things now that 99% of the people can't do because, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I was doing those things that 99% of the people won't do. So sacrificing now for what you want later is very much a position that I've been blessed to be in. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm a little ashamed of it, but not afraid of it. After Southwestern real estate, after I quit that business to focus on my family basically fell apart. And I'm a single dad with a baby girl now. But you know, this too shall pass. I'm blessed. I get to see my baby and spend most of the time with her, and she's super solid, brilliant, and wonderful. And I'm blessed because it's not really what I planned on doing at 40, but 39. But I got my plans, God's got his, and we know which one goes first.
Yeah.
I'm blessed to be in this position where I can spend all day, every day with my daughter, singing songs, reading books, playing games, working in the garden, going hunting, going fishing, doing the good stuff. I do a lot of that. I'm like a house mom slash dad, house dad.
That's awesome. Whoa.
It is. It's really cool. And then I get to travel every once in a while on the company buck, whichever company it is.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm really glad I filmed Dylan Barr's episode in this guy's like spare bedroom, and got to meet his daughter. And please forgive me. What is her name again, Pat?
It's Ada.
Ada. That's right. She's sharp as a tack. She was like keeping me on my feet, and like she's
Thank
a
you.
real sharp man. You're raising her very well, and she's like, you know, those first 5 years, they're like sponges. You know the importance of that, and you're like helping her out in every way that a true parent can and should. And you're stepping in a real way, and it's not like you're stepping there. You've always been there, and that's awesome. That you know you're an awesome example of, you know, what you have already spoken to, the growth that happens when you put the important things right. Principles of Southwestern get ingrained in you over time, and you know, put in those business years. That, you know, hearing your story of like how you were able to like grow other businesses was really compelling to me, because you're just like, yeah, man, it's just like all of what you've again already listed out: the self-talk, the goal cards, the actually having goals, which all this stuff is uncommon in the common world, we've come to learn.
Yeah.
So it's a pleasure to be connected with you and hear more of your story. Go ahead and, you know, tell us more if you'd like. You can either get more into like true pony stories and share how those have gone from your Southwestern career. You could talk about your after Southwestern career, like your professional outside of Southwestern learnings, because you certainly applied a lot. But go ahead, Andres. Do you have a specific question?
Yeah, actually, I just thought of this. I mean, so yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on, you know, which direction. Dealer's choice, obviously, is what we like to say here for our guests. So you can choose pick your own adventure. I'd be curious to see, like, you know, things that happen in life. In the last 10 years for me personally, probably the hardest couple of things that have gone on, even despite me selling books for 4 summers and other things, other business ventures, has been more like familial stuff, like inside the family. My parents were divorced. We had some other stuff that would be a story for another time. And sometimes it was really difficult, despite me knowing that, you know, attitude is everything, you know, that this too shall pass. What were some things that, you know, because if a business fails, Sonia, if someone doesn't buy from you, it sucks. It's the rejection, right? But it's not as hard as like the stuff inside. How were you able to dig deeper and maintain that focus on your attitude? I know you said it was ingrained in you, but is there anything that you think of or anything that you say to yourself to get through these maybe some more difficult moments?
You know, I'm blessed in that I haven't really had a lot of difficult moments here lately. It seems like it's all relative based on where you're at personally and otherwise. But one thing I learned the summer that I broke through with Southwestern in my third summer in Goshen, Indiana, where I had to learn Spanish. I mean, I knew Spanish a little bit, but I had to speak it the whole summer because I sold, I think 88% of my clients were Mexicans from Mexico.
Wow.
So it was kind of the no matter what mentality. But I remember being out in Indiana and getting that rain, that lake effect rain almost every day, midday, out in Elkhart and Goshen. And that was third summer. And it was always, man, it was always, can I go to this house? Yeah, I can go to that house. You know, one house doesn't make a day, one day doesn't make a week, one week doesn't make a summer. 1 week doesn't make a month, 1 month doesn't make a summer. And I would just tell myself that to keep perspective. Keeping perspective, this too shall pass. No matter how good or bad it is, just knowing that, you know, time does one thing. It goes on. So this too shall pass, no matter what it is. And when you realize how small you are in this big world and this big universe, and what your plan is, you know, in life, or what your role is in life, it just minimizes some of the things that you feel are super tumultuous and extremely devastating, and it helps you gain perspective. So I always tell myself this too shall pass. Like, you know, a couple years ago, I had a great year, made a ton of money, got to travel a bunch, was running 3 different businesses. And I kept telling myself this too shall pass, because things were better than they'd ever been. And I know that what goes up must come down, and what goes down must come up. So just keeping that even keel goes a long way. I've dealt with a lot of personal issues in my life as well, but you know how much people care about your personal issues, right, Andres?
Nothing.
They don't. No one cares about it. And that's actually not what matters. It's the way you respond that matters more than anything in your life, personally, and what happens to you. I have a lot of great friends from Southwestern that are embodiments of the way you respond is what matters most, not what happens to you. And I just think about my friends and my family that have been through worse things, and realize how I try to keep an attitude of gratitude. That's what helps me have a better attitude than most people. Although if you hang out with me, you'd think I was like this crotchety old guy that just talks trash all day long, because I'm kind of cynical by nature.
Yeah.
I got super high standards, and I'm kind of cynical by nature. I think probably my greatest gift, if I had one, would be to recognize people's faults right off the bat. And then I have to do a good job of hiding all my own.
That's fair enough.
You know, it's kind of crazy, but I used to go to doors and be like, you know, like if someone wasn't gonna buy, I wasn't the guy that would like keep smiling and walk on. Like if someone was a jerk or an idiot or rude, I would just give them like a retarded face and be like, really? And I did things like that to keep my attitude up when I was a bookman, as a younger bookman, before I became impenetrable, like Chris Samuels used to say, you know, shooting those bullets at you, and you're just like,
ting, ting, ting.
I think I'm thankful for my mentors, and Chris Samuels and Craig Soder and Kevin Johnson and Les Crafton and Matt Ross and Rowdy Green and a lot of the other mentors, Pat Roach, that I got to meet and work with. And I think Grant is a mentor, and Yvette Keister and Ron Alford. And
Yeah.
all those guys, Dave Brown, Emmy, Dustin. I'm so fortunate and blessed. I got to grow up with those guys as peers. And, you know, it's just good to know them and good to be with them and in the same ring and with the same level of experience. It's just phenomenal to be a part of the family. I love talking book stories, man. I've done it for a while, but I always let people, if they're a book person, female or male, I let them stay at my house if they're going to be in the area, and I feed them and I let them hang out, and I try to get to know them, because generally, you know, some of my best friends come from the book realm, and generally speaking, I love having book people here for a day or a week or a month.
It's a good time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always at least an interesting experience.
So yeah, what would you say is like the pony story that you'd be able to share with us from your entire 10 summer stint with the company?
I don't know. You know, you say you know, a book guy of 10 years, I've told a couple stories in my life, and I've been a part of a couple stories that were really great. I think back to my first summer, and I think back to a lot of these things, because there's so many different lessons that I've learned in Southwestern, and those are phenomenal, and I hold those dear. But it's all those tremendous experiences also that maybe got me into a sticky situation that helped me gain some perspective. This Sizzler, there was a crazy couple events at Sizzler first summer that were, I didn't realize how big of a deal they were, but they were kind of a big deal. And I was just like, man, whatever. One of them was, this is going to be like a multiple part story of Sizzler. Okay. Cause it's kind of like a couple ponies trapped into one, but then I've got all the other years involved as well. But summer number one, we were in Bahia Principe, Cancun, and we were we were at a nice resort, all inclusive, top couple hundred people in the company. It's back when they used to hold education and power in the same Sizzler.
Yeah.
That was back when we do it like that, before us dirty New Mexicans broke away from that, because we were too busy predating, I guess is probably the proper word, on the power division as an organization. So they broke us up, and they disallowed that from happening any longer. I'm there with some of the Arizona girls, and I'm having a ball because it's Sizzler. And I'm actually a little bit, I'm not totally sober the whole trip, but somehow, it's the first time in my life I ever did this, but my roommate tricked me into going streaking.
Oh
And
my God.
This is back in the day when streaking wasn't that weird, except it was kind of weird, because we both were about to go have our dinner with these girls that we had hooked up with at Sizzler. They were pretty cool chicks from Arizona. And he's like, let's go streaking. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, dude, let's go run naked. I'm like, why? He's like, it'll be funny. I'm like, all right, whatever. So before we get dressed, we go streaking through the food court. And then we hop back in our room, throw our clothes on, come back down, and we're eating dinner. And then there's like, 8 little guys over there, and they're all like, they're all mad because these 2 big white dudes came running through the food court naked, and pissed off a lot of the guests that weren't Southwestern.
Eesh.
Well, me being bilingual like I was like, hey, are you guys looking for those guys that came streaking through the food court? And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. I said, oh, dude, I saw the whole thing. And obviously this is all in Spanish because we're in Mexico. He's like, really? So he called all his buddies around, and I'm in the food court, and I literally walked them step by step everywhere. I said, yeah, he went right through here, and then they went right through here around this table and over here, and then right here he did the helicopter, and I was just like verbatim taking him through the whole thing where me and my buddy went. And then I described myself and my buddy to these guys, and I'm like, and then he ran off, and my room's right here, and I'm like, he ran off that way. And what's crazy is I'm just enjoying the day, and I go back to this dinner with these chicks. The next morning, my buddy Brent Gordon does a swan dive off the little bridge over the pool bar, breaks his skull from here to here, gets like 38 staples, and they throw like some statues off the walls, break some plants, typical New Mexico activities.
Wow.
Anyway, I find out the next day when we're like at Carlos and Charlie's at the Sizzler bus, where they go to the nightclubs and stuff. I'm sitting there with Dustin. He's a first year, I'm a first year. He's talking about his summer, I'm talking about my summer. I'm talking about how he did it. I'm trying to pick his brain a little bit. And I just realized we're both a couple of, former athletes, motivated, kind of got a little bit of swag. And he tells me he got kicked out of Sizzler, and it doesn't even dawn on me until I hear the story like 8 years later. But I pointed at Dustin's room, and Dustin was naked on his balcony when they showed up. So they kicked Dustin out that day, day one on Sizzler. So I got the CEO of Southwestern kicked out of Sizzler. That was
Wow.
kind of I didn't even know about that till 8 or 9 years later. But that was one kind of a pony story. And then, gosh, there's so many stories in Southwestern, from legend and lore and from the book field. And I gave away a lot of books to families with kids in the summertime. And, I decided through the book years that I would be a giver, not a taker, and that I would help more people than hurt more people. And really, I'm so thankful for my association with Southwestern and all my best friends and the things I've learned and my professional life and experiences. I owe it to, my upbringing, my family, and the principles in Southwestern and the journey that I've had and growing closer to Christ. Obviously, when I was a first-year bookman, I wasn't really exemplifying the day in life of a good Christian man, but I try harder and harder these days. And I guess I'm the perfect story of a guy that isn't really that special, but worked really hard and let the system work in me and let God work in me over the years. And, the fruits of my life are just abundant in ways that I've never imagined. And I'm really blessed and thankful for all that I've seen and all that I've had to do and all the places I've been on account of my association with Southwestern. Pony stories, gosh, I got lots of funny stuff. Be funny, make money, still works.
Yeah, man, that's the way. If you we could I'll give you a choice. We could either wrap it up here. It sounds like right about the time that you said you needed, or you could give us like one of those funny ones if you want, and then we can wrap it up to that. It's up to you.
Oh man. I think that mud story is probably one of the funnier things that happened to me in the summer. Another funny part of my book career is I biked for 4 summers of my 10 summers.
Wow.
I really embraced the leadership by example, and I always had a walker heavy group.
Wow.
So I would drive to my turf and ride a bike, put the blinders on, and then go experience things for how they were.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. I don't know that I have any one phenomenal stories, but I have about 1,000 pretty great stories. And I really am thankful for what you guys are doing, creating this forum, giving people a chance to share with each other. It's bringing some connectivity to the alumni base that's never been there. And I appreciate what you guys are doing. And I'm thankful for the initiative to start something up like this, because there's a lot of people that have great messages from Southwestern. And I'm so blessed to know, 10 or 15,000 of them over my time with Southwestern.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely. And we're very grateful to have you on here, Pat. It's great to catch up. All the blessings to you and your family and everything that you're trying to do to, honor the gifts that you've been given. And we know who they come from and all that good stuff. But it's exciting. This journey is not stopping anytime soon. We appreciate the praise. We love what we're doing, and we're grateful to be but vessels of this great message. And like Andres mentioned earlier, this is the dealer's choice. We want to have this forum as like a totally unfiltered, no holds barred. I think that's how that phrase goes, right? But it's just the cool stories. Yeah, just the humanness of what the intense summer program offers to see what life is like on the other side of a family's door, within your own heart, in a different part of the country, more or less on your own. I mean, you get tons of support and everything with that, but for at least 80 hours a week, you're alone, right? So even if you had a bunch of people following you in your further career, we appreciate those stories of you just experiencing life, because that's where real lessons get internalized through that exposure. Clearly, with your 10 summers, you put in your time, right? I always tell people that don't understand how Southwestern works. It's like taking a 3-year career at a sales job and condensing it into 3 months in terms of the learning curves and the emotional curves. And, it teaches you that, even keel, stay steady, and work freaking hard, right? So Pleasure to continue this. Andre, shall I read off the upcoming?
Yeah, I was gonna say that we could wrap it up here. This has been great. I wanted to say thank you so much because I appreciate the words that you say about us doing this, because I do agree with you. I think there's something going on here where people who are still currently selling books, just got done selling books and sold books a while ago. Even like, back in the 70s, we've had some people comment or talk to us about how it's cool that we're doing this. And so it's kind of neat to see the thing develop. We didn't really know where it was going to go when we started it, and it's cool to see where it's currently going and have some good plans for it too. So we love giving people an opportunity to share. So yeah, Nick, if you could share with us who we got coming up. I know we're filling up in May pretty quick, so let's see who we got.
Yeah, and we'd like to fill up more, so we're not going to play that scarcity game too much. We do have some Thursdays open, so we've got next Sunday. Eric Woodward is going to be on our podcast. He's an ASU grad. I believe he reached the DSM status, and I believe he worked with JYD. And no, was it TD? I don't know. We'll find out.
It was TD. I worked with Eric. It was TD.
That's awesome.
We've heard it should be a good episode because multiple people recommended him.
Yeah, and we're excited to have him. I might try and arrange to do that one in person with him because I live in the same town, Tempe, or at least nearby.
Got a great book wife as well. I'd recommend getting with him.
Nice. That would be a fun episode. That was his thing is, family is kind of like crazy. So Sunday he had to like pick a good time for him to set aside. All this to say, we're excited to have him. The following Thursday, we've got nothing. We'd like to get someone on as a guest just to make sure we can keep up with the consistent flow of episodes here.
What day is that?
That's May 13th, Thursday.
We have I'm gonna do a solo episode with Dylan Barr and Chad and Alio and Maurice Howell.
So I can read
Sorry,
through.
Forgot.
So after that, we've got Maddie Greger. She's
awesome.
a Florida book chick that's just hilarious and big heart, tons of stories, tons of success. She was a first-year top manager. Then that following Thursday, we still have an opening. After that, we've got Dylan Buck, who sold a ton of books, recruited a ton of people, total stud with his Southwestern career, killing it at Family Heritage as their top producer as of this past calendar year. Great stories to be had with him. Then the following Thursday, again, we got some Thursdays open. We got to follow up with that episode full. We might take a day off or two, but
yeah,
this is like our bread and butter. This is what Andres and I love doing. Because Tesla Plant, Sunday, May 30th. Like it's just a bunch of really cool people with
coming up
stories. Tessa, #1 first year back in like 2014 or something like that. It's exciting.
Sweet. Oh man, so cool. Hey Patrick, thank you so much for being on here. That'll do for us today. This is our first ever Saturday episode, and it was like a solid, good, like full of wisdom. I love it, man. Thank you for sharing your ideas.
We had to book this 2 or 3 months ago. It was funny. Nick was like, "What about this day? What about this day? What about this day?" I'm glad that we made it on the first. Hey,
yeah.
Happy first day of the second month of the second quarter, fellas.
Yes, sir. Let's go kill it. Thank you so much. My name is Andres Gamboa. I'm one of your hosts. Nick Taverdi is with me, and we had Patrick Tullius today. Thank you so much. See you guys.